In the previous video, we learned how to install a Linux distro on Windows using WSL. In this video, I'll show you how to install Docker and Portainer on Windows, so you can start working with containers in a simple and more visual way. First, go ahead and open the Linux distro you installed on WSL. Before we start installing Docker, I will remove any existing Docker versions, if there are any, to avoid conflicts and make sure the setup goes smoothly. Next, I'll update the package list to make sure we're working with the latest versions available. Next, I will install some required packages to prepare for adding the repository and installing Docker. Next, I will add Docker's GPG key to the system to ensure that the packages we install come from a trusted and official source. Next, I will add Docker's official repository to the system so we can install and update Docker directly from a trusted source. After that, update the repository again so the system can recognize the Docker source we just added. Next, install Docker along with the required components so the system can fully support container operations. After the installation is complete, check the Docker version to verify that everything was installed successfully. At the time of recording, the latest Docker version is 29, so if you see a similar version, it means the installation was successful. Next, start Docker and enable it to run automatically on system startup, so you don't have to start it manually every time you use it. Next, check the status of Docker to make sure the service is running properly. If you see the status as active running, it means Docker is up and running correctly. Next, check the list of running containers on the system. Since we've just completed the installation, the container list will be empty, and that's completely normal. By default, Docker runs with sudo privileges, so if you try to execute Docker commands without sudo, the system will return a permission error. To allow your account to run Docker commands without sudo, add your current user to the Docker group. After that, check your user groups to make sure your account has been added to the Docker group. If you don't see the Docker group yet, close WSL and reopen it to apply the changes. Now check again to make sure everything is working as expected. If you see the Docker group listed, it means the configuration was successful and you can now use Docker without sudo. Okay, now that we've finished installing Docker, next we'll install Portainer, a tool that allows you to manage Docker through a simple and intuitive web interface instead of using the command line. Before we continue, take a moment to look at how I organize directories for containers. Instead of keeping everything scattered, you can create a root folder, for example, containers, and inside it, create separate folders for each service like Portainer, N8N, or other applications. This structure will help you manage your data more efficiently, especially when working with multiple containers in real-world scenarios. Okay, first create a folder called Containers. Then move into it to start the setup. Next, create a separate folder for Portainer, for example, Portainer, to store its data and configuration. Next, create a configuration file for Portainer, where we'll define how the container will be deployed. Next, open this configuration file to start editing and adding the necessary setup for Portainer. Then, add the following content to the configuration file to set up Portainer. Here, this line is used to specify the image that will be used to run the Portainer container. In simple terms, this is the version of Portainer that will be pulled and started. This line is used to assign a name to the container, making it easier to identify and manage later on. Here, this line ensures the container automatically restarts if it crashes or when the system reboots, keeping the service running continuously. Here, we set up the ports to access Portainer from your browser. Specifically, ports 8000 and 9443 on the host are connected to the corresponding ports inside the container, allowing you to reach the service easily. Here, we set up volume so Portainer's data is stored safely and the container can communicate with the Docker engine. This ensures that Portainer's configuration and management information won't be lost when the container is restarted or removed. This line, we create a dedicated volume called Portainer_data to store Portainer's data independently and securely. This ensures that Portainer's data is preserved even if the container is removed or updated. Then, save your changes and exit the configuration file, ready to run Portainer. Once the command is executed, Portainer will be pulled if not already and run in the background using Docker Compose. Keep in mind, the first time you download and set up Portainer, this process may take a few minutes depending on your internet speed. Once the installation is complete, you can check the running containers with Docker PS to confirm that Portainer has been successfully deployed. If the output looks like this, it means Portainer is running successfully in the container and is ready to be accessed from your browser. Next, check the IP address of your WSL, as we will use this address to access Portainer from your web browser. This is the IP address of my WSL. You'll use this address to access Portainer from your browser and start managing Docker. Now open your browser and enter your WSL IP with port 9443. When you access Portainer for the first time, it will ask you to create an admin account. Enter a username and a strong password to secure your setup. Here, click the Get Started button to begin using Portainer. Here, in the container list, you can see all installed containers along with their current status, making it easy to manage and monitor them. As you can see, managing containers with Portainer is much more intuitive and convenient compared to the command line interface. That's it! We've successfully installed Docker and Portainer on Windows and seen how managing containers becomes much more intuitive and convenient. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss our upcoming Docker and Portainer tutorials.